race fans, my name is Taylor and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk about all the updates, theories, news, recaps, and more of the NASCAR Cup Series. I was traveling this weekend, hence the no video format, but I hope to be back at it for the pre-race show. There is a lot to get to with that one in particular, with updates, lots of shockers there, so make sure you tune in next time for the pre-race show. But right now, we're going to take it back to the Drydene 400 at Dover International Speedway, the Monster Mile. I'll go through the start and finishing lineup of this race, then go down the line to discuss key moments or takeaways from that race. So, without further ado, let's begin. As always, let's refresh our memories by lining up the field with a couple of key changes. Chase Elliott was sent to the rear for a second week in a row. This time he failed pre-race inspection twice. On pace laps, NASCAR sent Ryan Newman to the rear because they determined that the team had pulled a right side skirt out before the race. And if you remember a few weeks ago, I believe the team did the same thing on one of their pit stops. So this makes offense number 2 for Newman when it comes to pulling out that right side skirt, intentional or not. Finally, I had a typed note in the last podcast because the news was announced when I published the last podcast, but Josh Berry made his Cup debut Sunday in the 77 for Justin Haley, who was out of the car due to COVID-19 protocols. A great opportunity for Berry, but we all hope that Justin Haley starts to feel better soon and is back in the track in no time. With that driver change, though, Berry was sent to the back of the pack. Those are the updates right before the action. Now let's jump into the finishing order of this race. We will go into the top 4 more and down the line because it is a big deal. Hendrick Motorsports totally dominated the day, swept the top 4 spots of this race, and the winner isn't the Hendrick Motorsports driver I think we all expected, because even though Kyle Larson dominated, leading over half the race again, and Byron started with a strong car, it was Alex Bowman who led 98 laps to win the Drydene 400. Alex Bowman is only the second driver this season to capture more than one win, and I would say none of us expected this to come from Alex Bowman, but my goodness, I have to personally stop underestimating that team. I know he has bad luck week in and week out. I get that. But when Alex Bowman has a good car, he is able to put it in victory lane, which is so important. Bowman clinched the top spot in the field after a speedy pit stop got him out in front of the 5 car. He and his crew did a fantastic job on Sunday, working from a starting position of 16th to get the win. It was also great to see the 48 car back in victory lane, especially at a track that Jimmy Johnson, the former driver of the 48, was so dominant at. Bowman's also tracks he has won in his career. I want to mention this because it's just hilarious. It's just so interesting because he has 4 Cup career wins, and they come from a 2-mile track, a 1.5-mile track, a 1-mile track, and a 0.75-mile track. We also know the tracks that he has won at have a tendency to leave the NASCAR schedule, but that is besides the point. Consistency has not been strong with Alex Bowman, as I had mentioned. We will talk about that a little bit more later, but it could potentially be a secret weapon. Unpredictability can be a good thing. Now I want to mention second place finisher. I mentioned Kyle Larson. After dominating half the day, Larson really tried to take the lead away from Bowman towards the end of the race, but their cars were just so equal, it became a matter of either getting another caution or someone making a mistake, and Alex Bowman made no mistakes. This is Larson's 16th time in his Cup Series career to lead 100 laps in a single race, and so far he has only won 3 of those races. Another interesting graphic Eric Estep caught from the broadcast and posted to Twitter is in Larson's 7th Cup career wins. He has 24 second place finishes, giving him the lowest winning percentage among any active driver. All these stats just go to show how truly talented Larson is and how close he is to these wins. It's just a matter of putting things together, but he is so close every single weekend. In third place is Chase Elliott. Elliott came from the back of the field to the front. By lap 20, he was already in the top 20, and around lap 46 is when he broke into the top 10. Elliott was able to keep up with his teammates, and by the end of stage 2, he did compete with Larson for the lead. With the restart in the final stage, Elliott did fall back to 4th due to a brake issue, I believe. But after a few rough weeks for the champ, this was a solid day and a much-needed solid day at a track that he is pretty decent at. Finally, to round out the Hendrick Motorsports parade, William Byron finished in 4th, and yes, that is very good, but I'm also surprised because he really did have a good car to start off the race. Unfortunately, a brake issue plagued the team, and it plagued a lot of teams this weekend, I would say, and it kept him back in that 4th spot. I do have to point this out. Every single week so far, we've pointed this out. The streak continues for William Byron. This is his 11th straight top 10 this season, following in Jeff Gordon's footsteps, who made the 24 car famous. Lots of legacies for this Hendrick Motorsports team coming into this year, really picking up where the old dominant team left off. So congratulations to Hendrick Motorsports as a whole. Let's move on outside of the top 4 to the 5th place finisher of Joey Logano. Joey Logano had quite a few issues on Sunday, but he was able to get past them and finished in 5th, a very impressive day. And I really do truly believe that if he was given maybe 20 more laps, he would have passed William Byron and kind of broken up that Hendrick historic moment on Sunday. So personally, in a biased opinion, I'm glad we weren't given 20 more laps of this race, but Joey Logano did come back to finish in 5th. Now let's move on to the 6th place finisher of Kevin Harvick. He was actually able to contend for a win on Sunday, and he had a top 3 car at some points. I thought he was going to break up the Hendrick Motorsports parade and then faded off just a bit as Joey Logano came through the field. But we saw a glimpse of the Kevin Harvick we saw dominate last year, which was exciting to see, and I hope maybe this is a progression in a forward direction. Now, Denny Hamlin in 7th. This week, actually, I really have nothing to talk about with Denny Hamlin, so we're going to move on to the 8th place finisher of Tyler Reddick. Impressive driving from Tyler Reddick this season so far. I just looked at Tyler Reddick's stats, actually, and this season he has 7 top 15 finishes, and 4 of those come in the last 4 races. And of those races, 3 of those were inside the top 10. I know lots of numbers there, but long story short, Reddick has been putting up impressive numbers this season. One of his best seasons yet, and this is only his, I think, 3rd full-time season in the Cup Series. So speaking of some new stats, in 9th place, Daniel Suarez. He said he wanted to finish inside the top 10, and he did just that on Sunday. If I haven't talked about Daniel Suarez enough and how impressive this season has been, and I know impressive is the word that I use with a lot of these drivers and their finishes, but I truly, full-heartedly, sincerely mean that for Daniel Suarez. He is really taking advantage of this new opportunity, the new equipment with his new team. His finish today was not a fluke, in case you're questioning it. It really wasn't. He truly did have a top 10 car all day long and stayed in that position. I hope the good finish today continues to grow for the 99 team as they move into these next few weeks. Finally, to round out your top 10 at Dover, Cole Custer. This is tied for his best finish of the season. A much-needed good day for Stewart-Haas Racing, who continues to struggle week in and week out. Also a good day for Cole Custer because he crashed out of last week's race at Darlington, if you can all remember. So a good day for the 41 team. Now let's go outside the top 10 to look at other notable finishers of the race, and we're not going to go very far. We're going to start with position number 11 with Bubba Wallace. This is his best finish this season, and the first time we have actually seen Bubba finish a race where he started, pretty much. The team has had a lot of bad luck, as we know, so it's good to see the work starting to pay off a little bit this weekend. A step in the right direction. It was actually interesting to see him and Suarez race side by side a bit, as they are both on new teams this year, so I hope the 2311 team can build off this finish and continue to get better and better each week. Bearing in mind that, yes, bad luck can strike any driver at any moment, but I hope this is also a step in the right direction. Let's move on to 12th place finisher Ryan Blaney. He went to pit for damage and he had to start to the rear after that because pit road wasn't open, but he was able to make back those spots. He was racing inside the top 10 at that point, and fun fact, he has never finished inside the top 10 at Dover, and he almost did Sunday. He was so close until that damage hit and he had a tire rub. It overtook his progress, but again, I think that's also a step in the right direction for Ryan Blaney, knowing that he was able to race and stay inside the top 10, bearing in mind those issues with the car. Now on to my race-winning pick, Martin Truex Jr. I think I totally jinxed him in the whole JGR group because he was a non-factor. I was shocked. Honestly, I thought Martin Truex Jr. was going to do so well at Dover. All the Joe Gibbs Racing guys here are hit or miss at this track, but I thought based on the last 3 race weekends that we've seen for this whole team, they would have a good day. As the green flag dropped, Martin Truex Jr. shot back through the field. During the competition caution, he actually had a lug nut get stuck in the jack, and since that stop, it sent him back to 12th, and they just did not recover. So unfortunately for Martin Truex Jr. was not the day that he was hoping for. I don't think it was the day that we all expected from him. I have to mention Josh Berry with his Cup Series debut. Unfortunately, Berry got a speeding penalty during the pit stops after the first stage, and then on lap 171, he hit the wall. Good thing is he didn't finish dead last, but some unfortunate breaks there, but a learning curve for sure for these Xfinity guys to the Cup Series. It is probably a good thing, though, that he got some time in the Cup car, because I have no doubt that Josh Berry's career is taking him straight to the top after the finishes he has been able to produce over at Junior Motorsports for the Xfinity Series. Finally, we have to, yet again, talk about the unfortunate season of Aric Almirola. He was actually in the top 10 starting around lap 180 something, and he unfortunately was not able to hang on to that position to get stage 2 points, but pretty good for the 10 team considering the bad luck. And then as soon as we all thought it was over, on lap 302, Almirola had a massive hit into the wall with a mechanical failure, marking his 5th DNF of the season. He looked incredibly rough coming out of the car. He was very winded. Thank goodness he was okay and evaluated at the infield care center. But the season that is just one to forget for the 10 team continues to wreak absolute havoc. Out of 13 races, this is his 9th finish of 20th or worse. And of those races, 6 of them were finishes of 30th or worse. To put this in perspective, last season Almirola only had 2 finishes of 30th or worse all season. This is a whole 36-ish race season, and none of those finishes were 20th or worse. And we are already hitting that mark in the 2021 season. So that is all I'm going to say on that. Not what Aric Almirola needs going into a contract year, but let's go on to the point standings for these drivers. This weekend for points are odd because the NASCAR app is telling me something different than the unofficial sheet is saying, and then something different than what NASCAR posted on social media. It's all different, so I'm just going to go off the NASCAR app like I always do with the point standings. The top driver in playoff points right now is Martin Truex Jr., 6 points ahead of his teammate Denny Hamlin. Then the 2 drivers above the cutoff line right now are Reddick and Austin Dillon, and the 2 on the outside looking in is Matt DiBenedetto, 17 points down, and Kurt Busch, 30 points down. I would say those could be made up potentially. I know Kurt Busch has had a lot of bad luck these past few weeks. Matt DiBenedetto, I think, could easily make them up. He just had 2 bad weekends in a row, breaking his streak of finishing better and better each race. With your finishing lineup looked at in the points, now let's go down the line discussing my top moments of the race before we rate the race. And I have to say, like last week, not much to talk about here. So down the line will be an extended talk about the Hendrick Motorsports boys. A little history lesson, I would say, for the past few seasons. So the only moment in moment number 1 is called The Boys Are Back. Now, why are we talking about this? Like I said, Hendrick Motorsports swept the top 4 spots of the race on Sunday. As an organization, they led every single lap of the race but 18. That means they led roughly 96% of the race at Dover. This is the 4th time in Cup history a team has finished positions 1 through 4, and the first time by Hendrick Motorsports. The last team to do this was Roush Fenway Racing back in 2005. I became a fan of the sport, a true fan, back in 2016, and this is the first time I am seeing Hendrick Motorsports coming back to its former glory. I do know they were super dominant with Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Jr., and Casey Kane all on a team together. I am aware of that dominant streak from all of them, so I feel like we're getting back to that point. And starting last year, the question on every NASCAR fan's mind with Jimmy Johnson leaving and Chase Elliott picking up the championship, almost like passing of the torch, was, is Hendrick Motorsports back, or will they ever be back to their former glory? And by saying Hendrick Motorsports is back is not saying that they don't and won't have rough days. This does not mean I'm saying that they're complete gods, but this is the best I have seen each driver at Hendrick Motorsports drive since I joined the sport. Minus unfortunate accidents, of course, and mistakes, each driver is carrying their own weight and it's delivering in their own respect. With that said, I of course have to back up my statement with some stats, so let's look at the organization as a whole going back to 2018 when Byron and Bowman joined the team. 2018 was the year where Chase Elliott started to shine. He got his first win at Watkins Glen, and he was the only driver in the organization to get a win for the team. Elliott went on to win again at Dover and then again at Kansas, carrying the whole organization on his back for the 2018 season. He continued to do so in 2019 with a win at Talladega in April, and then Alex Bowman, who was in his second full-time season with Hendrick Motorsports, captured his first win at Chicagoland. He would then be the first of the Hendrick Motorsports drivers to get a win in 2020. And then teammate William Byron, in his third full-time season with Hendrick Motorsports, would get his first Cup Series win at the August Daytona race. And this is where I have to now admit my faults and my mistakes. With a side note, I kept counting these full-time seasons like this season currently in the 2021 season has not happened yet. So this is actually Byron's 4th full-time season this year, not 3rd like I have said, and I just caught my mistake until now, so I apologize. So to correct myself for all the times I kept saying that Byron and Bowman were in their 3rd full-time season this year, this is the start of their 4th full-time season at Hendrick Motorsports. I really did feel the need to take a pause and correct myself, so I do apologize, but let's jump right back into the action with the present. Now, Kyle Larson joined the team this year, 2021, and it only took Kyle Larson 4 starts with Hendrick Motorsports to get his first win. And just like that, everyone's a winner on the team. Since the current team was brought together, Hendrick Motorsports has a total of 18 wins, and that's 18 wins in the span of 4 years. That's not bad at all, and they're just getting started. This is also the earliest in the season that I've seen these Hendrick Motorsports drivers pile up these wins. But right now, we're sitting at 4 wins for the organization this year so far, which is really, really good. So that is a breakdown of the organization as a whole from 2018 to the present. Now let's go into the individual drivers, starting with Chase Elliott. He has 1 championship to his name and 11 Cup Series wins, all of them coming in the past 4 years. Last year alone, Elliott won 3 out of the last 5 races in the season, and talk about being able to run well when it matters during the playoffs. But I don't have to tell you guys that. You lived it, you saw how impressive Chase Elliott was in those final races of the season. So we're going to move on to William Byron, who has really cool stats to look at to show how much he has grown in the sport. And as I have mentioned, we're gonna just keep doing this until my face turns blue. William Byron has 11 straight top 10 finishes this season in the first 13 races. Last year at this point, if we're comparing in the first 13 races, Byron only had 4 top 10s and his best finish was only 8th, no top 5s, having an average finish of 18.08 after the first 13 races last season. This year, he has won a race. And all those top 10 finishes that we've already talked about, he has 5 top 5s with that and an average finish of 9.23. Look at that difference. Last year's finish at this point was 18.08 and now it's 9.23. If that is not impressive from that young driver, I don't know what is. Like, that is incredible if you actually peel things back and look at the numbers. There is something brewing over there with the 2014 with Rudy Fugle, and I love what's happening with that team. The change alone in average finishing numbers is astonishing. So Byron is going places for sure, and I actually think, we'll talk about this when I talk about the point standings next week, but he is a championship favorite. Slow but steady, a young gun that people try to underestimate. Definitely a championship favorite that we'll have to watch out for. Now let's move on to Kyle Larson. This is his first year with Hendrick Motorsports, as we know, with an average finishing position of 13 so far. Out of 13 races, he has 8 top 10s. In the past 2 races he has been in, he's had second place finishes twice in a row. He has a win, as I mentioned also, and with Chip Ganassi, if we're going to look back to his time with Chip Ganassi, his last full season with them in 2019, he had 3 top 10s in his first 13 races of that season. That year, he had 3 wins and with them at a total of 19 top 10s. So imagine what he can do in this equipment if he was that successful in Chip Ganassi equipment. Finally, we got to talk about Alex Bowman, the winner of the race. Bowman hasn't shown much consistency yet like his teammates have, but when his car is good, watch out. He is able to get those wins. He's starting to grow into the 48 and is starting to really fill those shoes nicely as Jimmy Johnson left a big gap to fill on the team. And yeah, Alex Bowman has had a lot of bad luck this season, not gonna lie. He's either fantastic or not good due to a number of reasons, but he manages to get wins despite the crap. So I do love this team and where they're going. I love the combination of Alex Bowman and his personality with his crew chief Greg Ives. And we all knew that Bowman's contract was going to expire after this season, but according to Mr. H himself after the race, they've started with a new contract and they want Alex Bowman to stay at Hendrick Motorsports. It is expected that they will and are going to extend Bowman's contract into next season, but make it a multi-year contract instead of a one-year one, which is fantastic for Alex. I know Alex has been very vocal about wanting to stay at Hendrick Motorsports, and Ally is a really good partner for him. So we will be seeing Alex Bowman in the 48 next season and into the future. So congrats to Alex Bowman for extending that contract. So now we have to finish up this moment. I do think, to answer my question, that Hendrick Motorsports is in an amazing spot and they are on the rise yet again. I am so excited to see this team back in action with this new set of young drivers that is able to continue to grow in the sport. Now, I am biased. I will admit I am biased because I came into the sport as a Hendrick Motorsports fan, but the data shows they're back. So it's not just me vouching for one of my favorite teams, I would say. It's me saying with stats, they're definitely back and are going places. Speaking of looking at data, let's rate this race above or below the yellow line. And again, on the channel, I'm changing things up a bit. I am no longer going to be comparing my race ratings to the other races this season because it clouds my judgment. And I feel like I have to fit the ratings into a slot. And I also feel comparing the races that we see at Dover to what we saw maybe last week at Darlington, for instance, just does not compute. It really doesn't make sense. The tracks are different, the racing is going to be different. So since I realized this, I'm going to be switching things up again, learning as we go. So no longer am I going to be comparing the ratings. I'm just going to give you the rating as it is, what I truly feel this race deserved. That said, this race was pretty generic. Like, there was nothing bad about it. There was nothing good about it. There was nothing that I would get super mad about. Nothing really to dive into because, yeah, I just gave a history lesson on Hendrick Motorsports over the past 4 years. So it wasn't bad, just mellow. It was a historic day for Hendrick Motorsports. It was more competitive than the past few races, but it felt like it was really missing something for me. So I'm going to give this race a rating of 55%. For Dover, I expected it to be a little more. I expected a little bit more from Dover than knowing what we've gotten in the past few years. But what did you rate this race? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, I am done. Thank you all so much for listening to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk about all the updates, theories, news, recaps, and more of the NASCAR Cup Series. Next episode will be an updates and pre-race show for the Eco Park Texas Grand Prix at Circuits of the Americas. I feel so weird saying Grand Prix because, you know, we're NASCAR, but here we are. Another road course coming up for NASCAR, and all 3 series will be racing for the first time in a while this weekend. There will actually be practice and qualifying, a little taste of normal, which I am very excited for. Wednesday night is the virtual race at COTA at 7 p.m. on FS1. I highly recommend checking that out. The virtual races are always so fun. Something else I also highly recommend is checking out my Twitter page for race day coverage and daily updates from the world of NASCAR and beyond. Also, make sure you check out the Podium Finish, a lovely outlet I love writing for that does driver interviews. The most recent one done by Rob Tiensen with Kyle Busch. That's right, we got an interview with Kyle Busch, a super fun read. Hope you guys check that out. You don't want to miss that. We also do pre-race and post-race articles, so show them some love over at the Podium Finish, and also show the channel some love. Share this channel, tell your friends, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And while you do that, I want to thank you all so much for listening to another episode of Above the Yellow Line, and until next time, I'll see ya.